This week, we continue our exploration of script analysis by breaking down our script into beats, revisiting Chekhov's 3 laws of composition, and at the end of this video, I'll be reviewing 6 really important questions an actor has to ask when working on their script, right after this. Hi, the Inspired Actor here. If you're new to this channel, we are dedicated to helping actors become better artists by offering these quick, roughly 10-minute acting lessons. We try to post these weekly, so if you want to see more videos like these, go ahead and subscribe so you'll be notified as soon as they come out. Also, take a moment before you forget and hit that like button, as it really helps me out. And if you know people who might like these videos, please don't hesitate to share them on your social media outlet of choice. There's an old story that may or may not be apocryphal about the time, I think it was Stella Adler, went to study with Stanislavski in Russia. When talking about script analysis, Stanislavski told her, "You must break your role into beats. Beats. Beats." Because of his Russian accent, Miss Adler thought he was saying beats. And so here in America, we say to divide the role into beats. Whether into beats or bits, the important thing for the actor to do is to break their role down so that they can play each moment of their role in a way that's both dynamic and true to the overall through line of action for your character. Think of the through line of action as a chain. Each link of the chain is the individual beats or units of your script, each link supporting and leading to the next in support of the overall or super objective of your character. There should be no missing gaps. There should be no extra links. The through line of action is complete and continuous. Even if the script is disjointed or your part is small, your job is to fill in the gaps, making your role a continuous whole. But be very careful, because breaking your script down too much or too little can lead to different problems. Breaking your script down too much can lead to a disjointed and erratic performance. Worse, it can put you in your head too much and steal the freshness and discovery you find in the scene with your partners. Not breaking your script down enough or at all can lead to either a boring one-note portrayal or a rudderless, meandering performance without much of a through line or coherent character. Actors who don't analyze their scripts themselves also tend to rely on their director as a crutch rather than a collaborator, making them less of an artist in charge of their own creation and more of a puppet for someone else's creative expression. This is an often misunderstood part of the actor's process. Some actors believe that scoring can kill the sense of discovery and truthful moment-to-moment responses they may have with a scene partner when it counts in rehearsal and performance. And honestly, they may have a point. If you are a slave to your homework, focusing on something you wrote down the night before rather than the living, breathing interaction with your scene partner in the present, you can be doing a lot of damage to the quality of your performance by ruining the feeling of spontaneity and discovery. An old acting teacher of mine used to say, "Homework is for home." This didn't mean that you shouldn't do this kind of work or that it wasn't incredibly useful. He was a stickler for script analysis, in fact, and would be quite unhappy with us if we didn't do it. He felt that homework was essential, but once you did it, then you had to trust that it was there with you once you were on your feet, influencing your performance without standing in the way of it. Ultimately, scoring is about asking and answering important questions. And while no answer is or should ever be written in stone, not asking questions of your character, not considering the composition of your character, not paying attention to the script as a whole and your place within that script is simply not an option if you are truly an active member of an ensemble committed to telling a meaningful, entertaining, dynamic, and cohesive story to your audience. Now, we have been looking at Much Ado About Nothing by William Shakespeare as an example of scoring. I put a link to the play in the notes, but it should be easy to find online no matter where you are. Also, Check out the card above for part 1 of this series if you feel you want to catch up. In going through the script, I have broken it down into 30 individual beats. Using the criteria of objective for breaking down a script, this is roughly on par for a major role in an average Shakespeare play. However, you might have more or less depending on your personal tastes and preferences. Again, using objective as your guide, typically you may have anywhere from 5 to 25 beats for a modern play, depending on the size of the role and the style of the playwright. For classical plays, and Shakespeare specifically, you can have many, many more. Some of the parts are very long and complex, so that is to be expected. Also, I want to clarify some terminology. Some acting teachers prefer to use units and beats interchangeably, and some refer to units as larger pieces of the script and beats as smaller parts of each unit. As always, this depends on you, your creative individuality, the type of play or script you are working on, and so on. For the purposes of this video, and in order not to throw too much terminology at you all at once, I think it's a little too late for that, I'm using unit interchangeably with beat. If you want to refer to it differently, I think that's okay too. As an actor, when working on a whole script, I prefer to break it down based on objective. This is a very common way of doing it. When breaking down a whole play or script, each beat will have its own objective. Your beat changes when your objective changes. Again, I have made a previous video on finding powerful and playable objectives, and I'll leave a card for you up here so that you can review that if you feel like it. Each objective your character undertakes throughout the script should generally support the super objective in some way. This doesn't mean that your character succeeds at that objective, or even that the objective is actually a wise or well thought out plan by the character. There will be setbacks and successes, individual wins and losses along the way. But that in no way diminishes the fact that each objective is still linked to the super objective of the character. This shouldn't be confused with tactics, though. One objective can have many different tactics to meet that objective, possibly 10 or 20 or even more. So breaking down your whole script by tactics can lead to perhaps hundreds of individual units, and this can become a confusing mess for most actors. So I would advise to be very judicious in your breakdown and to try to keep the units to a reasonable number. Another way to break down your script is by French scenes. A French scene is a scene in which the beginning and end is marked by an entrance or exit of characters in the play. This obviously works more for play scripts than for film scripts. And for plays where everyone is pretty much on stage the whole time, or a French farce in which there are many exits and entrances, this type of breakdown probably isn't going to be very effective. Many times, however, a character entrance or exit provides a change of information or objective, so it can be something to watch out for. For Chekhov actors, breaking down the script by atmosphere can be very worthwhile. I haven't talked about atmosphere yet in these videos, so stay tuned for those. But if you have worked with atmosphere or have read Michael Chekhov's To the Director and Playwright, you can see how that might be advantageously done. No matter what criteria you use to break down your script, however, you should codify any script into a minimum of 3 parts: the beginning, middle, and end. Compositionally, each and every character you play should adhere to Chekhov's 3 laws of composition: triplicity, polarity, and transformation. Here's a link to a video in which I talk about those 3 laws in depth. But basically, every role you play should have a beginning, middle, and end. The end should be as polar to the beginning as possible, and each moment of transformation should be noted and observed. I always think it's more helpful to find where my character ends first. So in looking at the play, I think Benedict's end, his final transformation into a noble lover, comes at his entrance at line 123 of Act 5, Scene 1. This is where, for the love of Beatrice, he turns against his friend Claudio and challenges him to a duel.
Signoria. You are a villain. I just not.
The beginning of Benedict should be as polar from noble lover as possible. And if you look at him at the beginning of the play, he can be described as confirmed bachelor or roguish wit.
But it is certain I am loved of all ladies, only you excepted, and I would I could find in my heart that I had not a hard heart, for truly I love none.
This goes from the beginning of the play to the end of Benedict's This Can Be No Trick soliloquy at line 248 of Act 2, Scene 3.
This can be no trick.
Now you have a strong polarity to work with, which will fuel your transformative journey throughout the play. The middle part of the character, or the transformational phase of the character, can be described as awkward lover, perhaps, and that takes up everything in between these two parts. Now, your interpretation may be quite different from mine, and as such, so might the places where you choose your delineations in the script, and that's totally and completely fine. But you still should have a minimum of 3 beats in this or any script, or part of a script that you work on. Again, I have 30. And I'll list where those breakdowns are in the notes. These 30 beats are based largely on objective, and when my character or some other important character enters or exits, which probably will change the objective anyway. Mark your beats in your script in pencil, and be prepared to erase and make changes if and when you change your mind. You probably will change your mind about a lot of things during the course of rehearsals and even well into production, and that's perfectly natural and expected. When working on an individual scene or monologue for auditions or performance, you are free to break down your script a little differently. Here, you might find yourself breaking down a monologue into individual tactics, and for a 1 to 3 monologue or even a 10-minute scene, that should be fine. Again, following the laws of composition will ensure that you are creating something that is engaging and interesting for your audience, whether that be a full house or one casting director. It will also be a more truthful performance ultimately, because a meandering and rootless performance is anything but true. Now is the time when I give you the 6 questions you should have asked and tentatively answered for yourself at this point in the scene study. 1. What is my super objective for the entirety of the play, film, scene, or monologue? 2. What are the objectives that compose my through line of action for my character? 3. Where are the individual beats of the entirety of the piece I am working on? 4. Where is the beginning, middle, and end for my character? 5. What is the polarity of my character's journey throughout the piece? 6. How does my character transform from beginning to end? Finally, when working on a whole play or script, you might also find it helpful to baptize each beat of the play by naming each individual beat. In other words, give it a little title so that it can live as a separate yet linked part of the play as a whole. You can name it in whatever way you like. There is no right or wrong way to baptize a beat. For example, let's look at my beat number 19 for Benvolio, which begins at line 269 of Act 4, Scene 1 on Benedict's line, "Lady Beatrice, have you wept all this while?" and extends through the end of the scene. You might name the scene "Kill Claudio" after an important line in the scene. You can name it "Benedict and Beatrice declare their love," or "The Doomed Lovers," or "Benedict's Engagement." Whatever you decide, let it be something that helps you piece together the story as a whole and gives importance and a unique flavor to each individual scene you are working on. The goal is to make each unit or beat as clearly defined and separate from each other as possible, so that the story doesn't get muddled or blended together into a sloppy mess. Remember, if it's clear to you, then it will hopefully be clear to your audience, and they really want to be able to follow along with your character through its journey. Next time, we'll cover some other scoring tips that you are going to want to know about. So if you want to be the first to be notified when that video comes out, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell. See you all later.